Well, South Africa has moved to alert level 1 of the lockdown. President Cyril Ramaphosa made the announcement last night. However, the president also emphasized the importance of vaccinations for the South African population. Let's take this discussion further now. We're joined now by via Zoom by retired Springboks legend Tendai the Beast Mtwarira, who is part of the Return to Play campaign, which is encouraging people to get vaccinated so that fans can return to the stadium. Such a pleasure to have you on the show. I'll call you Beast because I think that's what most people know you as. Thanks so much for being with us on SABC News, sir.
No, thank you so much for having me.
You're most welcome. I mean, it's a very important campaign that you're championing at the moment. Talk to us about the Return to Play campaign. What is it all about and what's its aim?
Yeah, so the Return to Play campaign was established by the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture, and it was officially launched by the Deputy President in September. And the campaign is basically aimed at galvanizing the country around a singular focus, getting all adults in our country vaccinated as quickly as possible so that we can safely return to our stadiums, theaters, and places of worship, and also, cultural events, concerts, and all those things that we miss.
Yeah. And I mean, let's talk about the importance of having fans, supporters in stadiums for players and, of course, the game in general. I mean, no doubt it hits you in the pocket, but let's talk about it in general, the importance for you as a rugby player having, a full stadium that you're used to.
Yeah, I think, it's the no-brainer that, every rugby player out there feeds off the energy of the crowd. And, you thoroughly enjoy that. The scene is set when you come out on the field and you're playing against your opponent and your fans are behind you screaming and shouting, in support. It just gives you that extra edge, and something that has been thoroughly missed by the players that are playing currently, and I chat to them constantly, and they've told me that, hey, we can't wait for the day when fans are back in the stadiums. So I think, we're desperate, to get fans back in the stadiums and, watch their favorite teams and, return to all the fun stuff that we enjoy, attending cultural events, and doing, many other fun things,
Yeah, for some time now, the pandemic has obviously had a major impact on a number of things. How has it affected, the sporting industry? I mean, as a retired rugby player yourself, you would know that things are very different to how things were when you were playing in terms of teams and fitness performance. I mean, there has to be a lot of changes. I mean, things like people getting tested, matches having to be cancelled, for example. I mean, there's so many variables at this time, and I just wonder what the important, really when we're talking about the impact that the pandemic has had on a number of issues in sports.
Yeah, I think the impact has been quite significant. From obviously games getting cancelled, and when you look at it, professional rugby players, rely on games being played every weekend for them to earn, full income. So there's been pay cuts. There's been a lot of, backlash from, those things happening. Yeah. And when you look at, the training facilities, everything has had to be put in a bubble. So it's not ideal, as rugby players, you still want to be able to move around freely. And as in general, as sports people, you want to be able to move around freely. And now all of a sudden, you're not able to do that. So it also takes, exerts a lot of pressure mentally, because it's such a massive change from what you're used to.
Yeah.
So it affects your performance in a big way. So I really feel for sportsmen and sportswomen that are playing in these current times, because it's very difficult. So I think the quickest way for us to get back to normality is getting vaccinated.
Yeah, and I mean, on a different note, I mean, last week was the 100th test between the Springboks and the All Blacks. Let's talk about the importance of this rivalry, which no doubt you were very much into during your time with the Springboks. And of course, I'm sure you know that the general public at this time isn't necessarily very happy with the Springboks at this time. We've heard Siya Kolisi kind of talking about that just before we spoke to you, saying that he understands why South Africa's upset. As a rugby, so important, and them being the champions that we know them to be. I mean, let's talk about that rivalry.
Yeah, it's an iconic rivalry. It goes way back, and for it to be the 100th, test match between us last weekend was really special. Yes, I felt like we had the game in the bag, and we just could not close it off. And probably that's where the fans come in, and I think Rassi put it in perspective. We understand, that there's a lot of people that care about the Springbok, they care about their jersey,
Yeah.
and that victory means, so much, gives hope to so many people. So I think, the Springboks that are in camp, they realize that it's a massive responsibility. And for us to lose a test match, it does upset our fans. But I think in the fashion, in the manner in which we lost that game, I think, you can't question the effort. You can't question the guys' commitment. It was just a fact that, we just couldn't close it out. So I believe that tomorrow will be that opportunity to obviously win this one, the 101st test match between the All Blacks and the Springboks. So I'll be rooting for the Boks all the way tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, South Africa is now, lucky enough to have good players that are playing in your former position. And I mean, it's easy to criticize, when you were in that position and successful as you were in a particular position, as you watch, from the sidelines. Now, it must be quite difficult for you. But what do you make of players like Oxenchair, Stephen Kirchhoff and Lizo Koboko?
No, I think for me it's not even difficult to watch. I am enjoying seeing guys like Oxenchair, Trevor Nyakane, really excel at the highest level. I think for me it just showed that I laid a solid foundation for youngsters to follow. So for me, it was all about inspiring the next guy. So having guys like, Ox and Trevor really shining, Joseph Dwebe as well, coming onto the scene. I think, it's been just really, rewarding for me. It's made me proud. And I think those guys are going to go on to win many, trophies with the Springboks. A guy like Trevor is now versatile. He's probably the most versatile prop, in world rugby. When you look at it, you can't have a guy playing lucid one test match against the All Blacks and the next is playing tight end.
Yeah.
It just shows that, it's a serious stuff. So I'm very happy about the current state and the crops of players we have.
Yeah, and I mean, the Sharks, for example, seem to be attracting some good experienced black players, but I also think that's been quite historic. I mean, what is attracting the likes of Bongi Bonambi and Sia Kolisi to Durban? I mean, I think the Sharks have really kind of been the ones to kind of bring to the forefront those strong black players, and that's a lot. There's been a lot of controversy around black players, for example, in rugby as well as in cricket, and it'll be interesting to know your stance.
Yeah, I think, the Sharks have always been proactive about, having diversity, embracing inclusivity, in the team. And it's something that we even stood for when I was still a player.
Yeah.
So I think this has been a natural progression for them to have so many good, young black players, Apelele Fasi, Bongi Bonambi, Spoon Kosi, now obviously our decorated captain Sia.
Yeah.
I think, they stand for so many things that are, are right in this time. So I think, they're just, such an example to other franchises out there. And I think even as the Springboks in 2019, that was the key to our success, embracing, our uniqueness, our diversity, and just making sure that every person that was in that team felt inclusive. So I really believe that, it's just going to benefit SA Rugby overall. By promoting inclusivity.
All right, so let's get back then to the issue of the campaign. I think we digressed a bit talking rugby there. So for those that want to join your campaign, this campaign that you're involved with and get jabbed, what does one have to do then to get involved? I would imagine that there are some current and former rugby players that are perhaps joining you on this initiative. Perhaps you can tell us about that.
Yes, I think there's a few individuals that have, voiced or put their voices behind this great campaign. I think for me it was a no-brainer because I realized that vaccines are safe and it is the safest way for us to get back to normality. And, they've been backed by solid science and research. So, yeah, this is the safest way for us to really get our economy thriving, making sure that unemployment rate goes down. So I think that, if people want to go and get vaccinated, as we know, this weekend is the VUMA vaccination drive.
Yeah.
And, both public and private vaccination sites will welcome everyone, whether they have medical aid or not, whether they're registered or not, and whether they get an SMS or not. All you just have to do is just pitch up and you get your vaccine. And, is if you're probably confused about the details, you can still visit the website. It's SA coronavirus website. You Google that and you get there. And yeah, we just want this country to get back, to its best. We want everything to be open. And for that to happen, we're going to have to get vaccinated. So, I'm adding my voice to this because it's powerful. It means so much.
Yeah.
So I'm passionate about it. Yeah.
All right. Thanks so much for giving us your time. We really do appreciate having you here on SABC News.
Thank you.
All right, that is Tendai Mtwarira, or known as the Beast, retired Springboks legend, chatting to us about an initiative that he's involved with now called Return to Play campaign, encouraging people to get vaccinated and indeed encouraging fans so that fans can return to the stadiums.